This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with mindfulness teacher Kelly Hanlon McCormick. And today is episode number 262, Broaden and Build. My intention for this conversation is that we use the theory of broaden and build as a way of zooming out and seeing, oh, you are here on the map of life. This is what's happening. And that you have a way to get back home when you need it. Welcome in. It's the Transforming Anxiety podcast, episode number 262, Broaden and Build. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there. Welcome in today. Well, we're officially summering. Every single year, I forget how to summer, I swear. The days just blur together. There is so much daylight and brightness and vitality to these months. And the kids get a little feral, right? I love it and I kind of hate it. It definitely makes me glad that we have 4 seasons and that we cycle through things. That more and change is always coming. Phew. Yes, so we're slowly remembering how to summer over here. How about you? Are you getting into it a bit? I know some of you are just wrapping up school. It's wild to me how regional that is, like how different coasts and states do things so differently schedule-wise with the school year. But for the most part, here we are, right? Summer, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere. How are our southern hemisphere friends doing? You're wintering. Yes, which is a whole other practice, right? A whole other shift and change. Yeah, because more is always coming. Change is always coming. All right, so today we're going to explore a theory. This is a really helpful thing to remember as we are creating or breaking habits. Whenever even we approach those blank slate moments where we can start fresh, which a new season kind of is. And honestly, just going through daily life when things seem to turn one way or another, either everything feels easy and as if it's going your way, or things feel as if they're just off, like you can't catch a break. This is a theory that gives us a way to understand things, and therefore it creates some solidity and some stability, particularly when things go sideways. I've been practicing with this for a few months, and I'm finding this to be really helpful and really supportive. So it was time to bring it here so that we can talk about it together. So the theory, of course, is called Broaden and Build. This is a concept that was put forth from Barbara Fredrickson. And I will tell you, she's a social psychologist. She's a professor of psychology. And I'm just going to let you know right off the bat that some of her stuff, her positivity research, has come under question based on some tricky math that she used for some of her research and some of her projects, math that couldn't be replicated. So the research was pretty well debunked, unfortunately. That said, honestly, this one has been so helpful to me. I don't even really care if it's like capital T true. I like the idea of it so much and it feels good. And there's something very basic about it that just seems right. And I think we've all experienced this. And so on some level, we have a personal sense of how accurate this can be. So try it on. You can always chuck this if it doesn't resonate, just like all of this stuff, right? All right, here's how it goes. Actually, hang on. Actually, let's start by talking about the purpose of negative emotions. I know this seems like a hard left. It'll circle back. We're just going to go through a quick handful of a couple of obvious and relatable examples. Like, let's start with, anxiety. That's why we're here. What's the purpose of anxiety? Anxiety is the emotional component of the fight or flight stress response, right? This is what happens when the sympathetic nervous system gets activated because your brain perceives that you're under threat and you need to either fight for your life or make a run for it. Either way, this is enormously useful if you need it, right? You're primed for action almost instantaneously. You can fight or flee immediately. So this is useful. If you need it, it's there. This is a real feature of the human body. Anger, this is another one that's pretty useful, even though it's not fun, just like anxiety. When you feel angry, the first question to ask is, what needs to be protected? Anger is a signal that something has been violated. A physical, a mental, or an emotional boundary has been violated. So we may not be fully conscious about what the boundary was, or that we even had a boundary in place. But anger is a sign that you feel encroached upon. When someone says something or does something and you feel angry, check for what feels like it was violated. What line was crossed? It's always there. So this is the upside of anger. Okay, there's a purpose to it, showing you where you need to shore up your protection, where you might feel vulnerable in an icky way, or where you may need to pay attention and be gentle with yourself. Maybe something you just didn't know about yourself. But anger is always, always a signal. Super useful, right? All right, one more. How about sadness? Sadness asks the question, where do I need to let go? And also, where do I need to rejuvenate? Meaning, when I'm feeling sad, I might be hanging on to something that isn't here anymore, or something that has changed. It's a clinging to what was, a holding on to sameness. Also, sadness asks, what needs more life? What needs more attention? Where can I turn my focus and breathe more vitality into this or that element? It's like turning your head from the past towards the present moment. Letting go. This is really hard for us, but it is one of the gifts of sadness. There's value in this quote unquote negative emotion. So again, when we can use negative emotions as messengers, right? Looking for clues and information within them, we learn more about ourselves. We get more self-aware. We get more real and more alive within our own minds and our hearts and our bodies. Okay, so we had to start there. We're getting to the theory here. I wanted to start by reminding us and walking through some of the icky stuff to see the meaning in it, the use of negative emotions, right? There's a purpose to them. There's a value to them. Because those are fairly obvious, I think. We can see, like just talking through it here, particularly when we're not in it, how negative emotions, they get our attention and they create action. We change things. We fix things. We move forward having learned something. We get more self-aware. There's value in these emotions, which kind of begs the question, what is the purpose of positive emotions? What about those feelings that we like, right? That we search out, that we pursue? What good are they? So when you consider this from a biological evolutionary standpoint, truly it's a bit of a mystery, because positive emotions are just kind of fun. They don't serve nearly the purpose that negative emotions do. Negative emotions spur humans to act, and usually to improve things, to optimize things, to survive. They're necessary. Positive emotions, they can seem kind of superfluous in comparison. At least it's not nearly as obvious why we'd evolve into having positive emotions. If negative emotions drive us to take action to better our lives or to survive, then how do positive emotions compare, right? So this is where the theory comes in. Broaden and build. And like I said, let's just toss the math and the research out. Let's think of this as a concept. Let's think of it as a framework that could be, just try it on, it could be super helpful to lean on when we want to. And I always say this with this work. take what works for you and chuck the rest anyway. Know where you're avoiding yourself, right? Know if you're avoiding doing the work. But if something just doesn't jive with you, delete it. Same thing here. And that said, I've heard so many people describe this exact phenomenon, and I have felt this deeply. So I really feel like it bears discussion. All right, finally, broaden and build. Here we go. Let's illustrate this in the form of a hypothetical day so that you get the idea. So let's say last night you went to bed on time and you slept great. So you wake up a little early and you feel rested. You aren't rushing around to get into your workout. You have a sense of ease. You have a sense of spaciousness as you get your day started. And so when your kid wakes up a little grumpy, you feel pretty grounded and you're able to connect with them instead of getting impatient with them. You pack your lunch. That way you won't have to scramble or spend any extra money during the workday. You already feel like you've got some extra time back in your day before you're out the door because of all these little things that are coming together. Then, bonus, you remember to grab an umbrella because it's going to be raining later. You toss out an easy idea for dinner that the family's totally on board with. So it feels like that's practically taken care of too. There's traffic on the way to work, but you left a few minutes early, and it seems like a good time to bond with your kiddo before you drop them off for the day. So instead of an obstacle, the traffic actually feels like a gift. All right, so you get the idea. There's this sense that like begets like, right? When things are going well, it's easier to handle little bumps in the road. It's easier to think benevolent thoughts and to keep things going in a positive direction. It's like the more good, right? Broaden and build. Positive emotions lead to expansive, exploratory, and resourceful ways of going about things. So you keep broadening and you keep building upon your knowledge, your experience, and your positive outlook. It's like a positive spin cycle, right? More positivity begets more positivity. And we've all had mornings like this, right? When everything just kind of clicks. All right. So now for a term that I coined, this is not from Barbara Fredrickson. What is the opposite of this? Like we could broaden and build. Things are going well, and so we're able to keep things going well. We keep broadening, we keep building. Or we could diminish and demolish, right? If the broaden and build morning sounded all rosy, the diminish and demolish way is something I think we can definitely all relate to. For instance, let's say you wake up late, and so you're in a panic before your feet even hit the floor. There's no time to make breakfast, let alone work out. When was the last time you worked out? So you stop, you grab a coffee on your way to work, and you wind up getting a pastry because you're starving. So you end up starting the day with sugar and a boatload of caffeine, which is definitely not what your body really needs, but it sounds good, and you're out of time, so what the hell? There's no good parking, so you're jogging into the office, you wind up spilling your coffee. You realize you forgot to bring your water bottle. You're feeling frustrated that the day is already off the rails. It's only 8 a.m. And then you get a text from your spouse. Did you remember that the kids have dentist appointments this afternoon? No, you did not remember. And between that surprise and evening practice, it looks like it's another grab-and-go dinner situation, which is going to bookend the day with crappy food and not enough time, which gives you this overall sense of just being rushed, of being unhealthy, and of being completely stressed and anxious. Diminish and demolish, right? The day keeps getting smaller and tighter and more frustrating. Yes. So, like I said, I'm guessing it also doesn't really matter to you what the research around this says because it's just so relatable. You get it because you've experienced it. Days where everything is in flow and things click into place and it's just like butter. You feel so capable. You feel like you're on top of it. And then there's days where you look around and you think, am I being punked right now? Like, it's comical how tragically stupid everything is going. We've all been there, right? We have all been there. And listen, this is just the dumb, superficial level stuff. Like, I haven't even touched on the real of this. This is like when you stub your toe kind of stuff. We didn't even get into the whole like questioning your worth, what the hell you're doing with your life, doubting your parenting, feeling so lonely and out of step with the people that surround you that you wonder why no one sees that you feel like you're drowning on dry land, that you just want to take your skin off and get away from yourself. When you feel like your body is soaked in anxiety and you can't get out of the panicky thoughts that keep churning through your mind. We didn't even touch that. But in the interest of keeping this short and sweet and touching on how this could be extrapolated out into that much bigger, harder hitting, deeper stuff, I want to contrast the broaden and build experience with the diminish and demolish experience. And I want to suggest that sometimes all we have to do is pause. We need to throw a proverbial monkey wrench into the diminish and demolish spiral so that we stop moving in that direction. We don't need to fix anything. You don't need to solve anything or magically come up with an answer or think different thoughts or somehow be any better than you are. No. You just need to pause and breathe. That is it. Actually, okay, I find pausing, breathing, and sipping on water to be the trifecta that helps. Those three things. Pause, breathe, sip on water. I think we think that if we're going in the diminish and demolish direction, that we have to reverse course and get back to broaden and build ASAP. And I want with this episode to share that there are these directions, right? These spirals that we go in. And I want to suggest that we don't need to artificially manufacture a course correction if we're headed in the diminish and demolish way. I think all we really need to do is stop moving in that direction. Tread water right there if you have to, but pause so that you don't keep diminishing yourself, so that you don't keep demolishing your day. You'll find if you're truly down the diminish and demolish path that even the idea of broaden and build is pretty grating. It just doesn't meet you where you're at. It's hard to even visualize it, let alone get yourself there. So, again, don't force anything. There's no need to fix or solve anything. Just pause. See where you're at. Look at where you're going. All you have to say to yourself is, oh yeah, I'm on the diminish and demolish pathway. Okay. All right. I am here on the map. Yes. If you don't want to keep going in that direction, pause. That's it. Let's not make it any fancier than that. Okay? Pause, breathe, sip on water. And then you'll find, after a while, and here's a tip, that while is longer than you want it to be. But you'll find, after a while, that you can move around a bit again. That you aren't quite so firmly planted on the diminish and demolish trail. And that you can gather yourself. Maybe at least hold on to the idea of broaden and build. You can remember that just like diminish and demolish is a thing, yep, so is broaden and build. That's also a thing. Can't quite get there from here, but it's out there. That's something people do. All right. And maybe you have to stay right there for a while, not moving in any direction, but just holding on to the idea that both directions exist. You're just sitting at that proverbial fork in the road, waiting till you can, in a real way, start taking action, start moving towards broaden and build. Absolutely no faking it till you make it. No force. No manufactured pushing. Just let go. Let it be. And then see what arises. When you fully let go, when you're able to fully let go, and I know this is a rare thing, I speak from experience, you'll see that the whole diminish and demolish, it's really just an adult temper tantrum. It's us having a hard time processing emotions. It's us struggling to find meaning or to accept something that is running counter to our preferences. It's tough. That's what it is. It's difficult. One more thing on this. When you find yourself in the throes of a diminish and demolish churn, you can be certain that you're caught somewhere. You're struggling. You're feeling stuck. Or at least you're feeling something. And whatever it is, it's tricking you into thinking everything is like this thing. It's a cunning little thought error that lulls you into thinking this is now your life. It can be really hard to keep perspective and pull that one thing, whatever you're caught on, whatever you're struggling with, to pull that one thing out and say, well, this thing is tough. I'm pretty confused. I'm pretty scared. I'm pretty mad or anxious right here. But I do have these other things that are going swell. That's a hard thing to do. When you're not caught, when you're well rested and when you're feeling pretty well resourced and grounded, it's easy to see that there are good and easy things in life and there are tricky, challenging things in life. We're all like, well, yeah, duh, right? But when you're in it, it's not so easy to have that perspective. So, okay. Last thing for today, for real, last thing. This is why it is so important and so helpful to practice these kinds of things when you're feeling good. We can get into this kind of work when we're having a tough time. And sure, it's just really hard to actually learn it and practice it and make it stick when you're in it. If you are in a broaden and build phase, you can see all of this. You can practice with it. You can get comfortable with it. And then when that diminish and demolish beast inevitably comes for you, it's just a matter of falling back on your practice. You don't have to get creative and resourceful on top of trying to just survive it all. You see what I mean? It's the mental and emotional equivalent of eating healthy foods and exercising regularly when you're young, when you're healthy, when you're injury-free. Because then, when you're down, because we all eventually get sick and hurt and grow older if we're lucky, then when that happens, we have all of our good practices to fall back on. We have lots of muscle memory and good habits in our personal repertoire. Now, I'll just tell you, I fall into this trap plenty. I've done it countless times. I've watched clients do this too. It's so tempting to take our eyes off the ball when things are good and smooth and easy. It's like, oh, I'm good now. Yeah, you are. Except, no, unfortunately, there are times when we get sucked into the diminish and demolish vortex, no matter how good we are. We cycle through it in and out, and it's not a bad thing that we get into this churn. It's a matter of how do we handle it? How do we talk to ourselves? How do we stay aware when it's happening and take care of ourselves? That's the practice. So you won't always get to stay in the broaden and build experience. And that's okay. It's not supposed to be a 100% of the time kind of thing. Just know it's a thing. And it's pretty spectacular, really. And it's okay that you get into the churn of diminish and demolish. Again, we won't get stuck there forever either. And it's not something that we're trying to avoid at all costs. It's gonna happen. Just be willing to practice with it, to stay aware, to take care of yourself no matter where you're at. Does that make sense? Sound good? Broaden and build. That's the official term, right? Diminish and demolish. That's my term. You know it because you feel it. You've been there, right? It's very relatable. So keep perspective. Pause and breathe instead of trying to change things. Encourage the broaden and build where you can, right? Embrace that for sure. Live in a way that makes that come easily. Yes. And be gentle with yourself when you slide down into the diminish and demolish churn. It's okay. It's never forever. Sometimes hitting the hard reset button and sleeping it off can shake things loose. Sometimes it's a matter of moving, right? Moving into a different day of your cycle. Sometimes you have to talk about it. Sometimes you have to go take a lap. Sometimes you have to write it down or sit with it and feel it. Arm yourself with all the tools, all the practices that you need in order to be kind to yourself. Yeah? All right. I will see you at the same time, same place next week for more transforming anxiety. And until then, please take care. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for doing this work alongside me. Thank you for sharing this with your friends and your family, anyone who, could use the support and the guidance, who could use these teachings and practices. Thank you for sharing your stories with me, telling me about your experiences and asking your questions. I'm here with you. Let's do this together. Transforming anxiety.